Hey gang, and welcome back. Just a reminder, you can now use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, at flipsidegaming.com. You'll get 10% off orders over $10 and help with the channel at the same time. This week finds us back in Montreal at Gamers Co-op, and my buddy Cedric is playing my Krenko deck and keeps a hand with 2 Mountains, Buried Ruin, Skull Clamp, Goblin Bushwhacker, Goblin Piledriver, and Voracious Dragon. Fred number 2 is playing Hoard of Notions and keeps a hand with Mana Confluence, Nova Chaser, Mulldrifter, Worn Powerstone, Mirari's Wake, Stomping Ground, and Scalding Tarn. Evil Adam is playing his Derevi deck and keeps a hand with Fertile Ground, Gilded Drake, Yavimaya Coast, Tundra, Luminarch Ascension, Pact of Negation, and Nature's Lore. I am taking my Trostani out for a spin again, and I keep a hand with Aetherflux Reservoir, Scavenger Grounds, Canopy Vista, Cultivate, Return to Dust, Beast Within, and Fortified Village. Adam wins the die roll and starts us off. Adam plays a tapped Hollowed Fountain and passes. Cedric plays a Mountain and casts Skull Clamp. I play a Fortified Village which comes into play tapped, and I pass. Fred plays a Scalding Tarn and cracks it to take 1 to go and find Breeding Pool. Adam plays Yavimaya Coast and takes 1 point of damage to cast Nature's Lore. He goes and finds Temple Garden. Cedric plays a Mountain and casts Goblin Piledriver before passing to me. I play a Forest and I pass to Fred. Fred plays a Stomping Ground, taking 2 to have it come to play untapped. He then casts Lightning Greaves and passes. Evil Adam plays a Tundra and casts Fertile Ground on his Hollowed Fountain. He then casts Derevi, who untaps Hollowed Fountain upon entering. I cast Eldamri's Call and I find Wood Elves. Adam then casts Luminarch's Ascension and passes turn. Cedric plays a Buried Ruin as his land for turn and casts Hordling Outbursts to net himself 3 Goblin tokens. Moving to combat, he swings the Piledriver at Adam and hits him for 1. I play a Scavenger Grounds for my turn, and I cast the Wood Elves to go and find Scattered Groves. Adam gets to put a counter on his Luminarch Ascension at the end of my turn. Fred plays a Swamp and casts a Worn Powerstone before passing turn. Adam gets to put another counter on his Ascension. Adam plays an Island and casts Thrasios. Moving to combat, he swings Derevi at Cedric. Cedric takes 2, and Adam untaps Derevi before passing. Cedric plays a Mountain and casts Ruination. Adam counters it with a Pact of Negation though, and Cedric moves to combat. He swings the Piledriver, who is effectively unblockable to Adam right now, at Adam for 1. For my turn, I play a tapped Canopy Vista, and I cast Return to Dust in my main phase. I target the Fertile Ground and the Skull Clamp, not seeing the island Adam had just played as it blended in with his mat from my angle. I think I'm taking Adam out of the game at this point, but I'm going to be disappointed. He gets another counter on his Ascension at the end of my turn, and we pass to Fred. Fred plays a Mana Confluence as his land drop, and takes 1 point of damage from his Mana Confluence to cast Mirari's Wake. He then passes to Adam, who gets his final counter on the Ascension, and makes 2 Angel tokens. Adam has to pay 5 in his upkeep, and does so before playing an untapped Breeding Pool. Adam moves to combat, swinging Thrasios at Fred, Derevi and an Angel at Cedric, and the final Angel at me. He gets to untap 4 lands, all but recovering from the pack this turn, and passes. Cedric draws for turn and casts Faithless Looting. He draws 2 and discards Voracious Dragon and Goblin Offensive. He then casts Goblin Bushwhacker, paying for the kicker cost, and gives all of his creatures +1/+0 and haste. He swings it all at Evil Adam, as one should in this kind of situation, for 18 points of damage. Adam has an Angel block the Bushwhacker, and the second one block a token. He takes 14, and Cedric passes to me. I play a Cultivate in my main phase, finding a Forest for the field, and playing the one I put into my hand. I then swing my Wood Elves at Adam, who chumps it with an Angel, and in my second main phase, I cast Beast Within on the Ascension. Fred plays a tapped Nomad Outpost for his turn, and evokes his Mulldrifter to draw 2. Fred then casts Kindred Dominance, and makes Cedric promise not to attack him until the end of the game if he names Goblin. Cedric agrees, and Evil Adam says goodbye to his Angel army. Fred then passes to Adam. Adam's turn is over quite quickly, as he untaps, draws, and passes turn. Cedric draws for his turn and casts Goblin Bombardment, followed by a Bloodmark Mentor. Moving to combat, he swings his little army at me for exiling Skull Clamp, and I take 7. I like Fred's line of thinking, so I bring out my own Mirari's Wake in my first main phase. I then only have to tap 2 lands to cast Trostani, and I pass my turn. Fred plays a Plains and casts his commander, Hoard of Notions. He also has enough mana floating from the Wake to activate his ability, and he gets to bring back his Mulldrifter from the graveyard, drawing 2 as it enters. Fred then takes 1 from the Mana Confluence to cast a Nova Chaser, championing the Mulldrifter. He moves to equip the Greaves onto the Chaser, but Adam responds to the equip by bringing in Derevi and tapping the Chaser down. Moving to combat, Fred swings the Hoard of Notions at Adam, who takes 6. Evil Adam untaps for his turn and casts a Gilded Drake, stealing Fred's Hoard of Notions. He swings the Hoard at Fred for 5 and Derevi at Cedric for 2. He untaps Derevi with a trigger and untaps one of his lands before passing. Cedric plays a Metallic Mimic in his first main phase, naming goblins. He then passes to me. I draw for turn and ask Evil Adam how many counters he has. I then play a Plains and I cast Elemental Bond. I then cast a Green Sun Zenith where X is 7 and I go and grab Ulvenwald Hydra, forgetting it costs 6. I put the Tristani trigger underneath the Hydra trigger, allowing me to go find a land before gaining a life. I grab Rogue's Passage and then gain 10 life and draw a card from the Elemental Bond. Fred casts Utter End in his first main phase on my Mirari's Wake, his jealousy of me finally getting the best of him. Fred then plays a Misty Rainforest and cracks it to go and find a Scattered Groves. Fred then casts Green Warden of Marasa and returns the Kittered Dominance to his hand. He puts the Greaves onto the Green Warden and moves to combat. He swings everything at Adam, who thinks about blocking but ultimately decides to cast Teferi's Protection. Evil Adam draws for turn, and Fred says if Adam swings with the Horde so that it dies, he'll stop focusing him. Adam is happy to make this deal, and he swings the Horde at me, who is promptly blocked by my larger Hydra. Adam then passes turn. Cedric plays a Mountain as a land for turn and moves to combat. He swings everything at Fred for a total of 14, breaking his deal, but that's what goblins do, and passes to me. I cast Wall of Blossoms, gaining 4 and drawing a card. I then cast the card I drew, See the Unwritten, and I reveal the top 8 cards. I choose to have Emeria Shepherd and the Sakur Tribe Elder come into play, gaining 5 life from the 2 of them entering. I then sacrifice the Elder to go and find a Plains, which triggers the Shepherd's ability, whose ability I have target the Elder. With the target on the stack though, Adam casts Capsize, paying for the buyback, to bounce the Shepherd back to my hand. The Sakur Tribe Elder still gets to return to the field, and I gain 1. Moving to combat, I swing the Hydra at Cedric, and I pass my turn. Fred untaps and plays a Graven Cairns as his land for turn. Fred then recasts his commander, and has enough mana floating to activate the ability once more, plopping out a Fusion Elemental. He then puts the Greeds onto the Elemental, and Fred casts Kindred Dominance, but this time names Elementals. Cedric responds by sacrificing 3 goblins to kill the Nova Chaser, whose death brings back the Muldrifter, letting Fred draw 2. He then sacrifices the remaining 2 goblins to deal 2 directly to Fred, and I sacrifice my Sakur Tribe Elder to find a basic before we bin everything. Fred then swings the Fusion Elemental at me for 9, the Green Warden at Cedric for 6, and the Horde at Adam for 6. Adam draws for his turn and passes. Cedric plays an Impact Tremors, and then brings out Goblin Chieftain, who deals 1 to the table upon entering. He then passes turn. For my turn, I recast the Emeria Shepherd in my main phase, drawing a card as it enters, and then decide to bring out Seance. Evil Adam is stunned by anyone playing this card in EDH, and wants to make sure he knows what it does. On Fred's upkeep, I exile my Sakur Tribe Elder with Seance, and Fred plays a Cavern of Souls naming Elementals. Fred then activates the Horde's ability to bring back the Nova Chaser and champions the Muldrifter once more. He puts the Greaves onto the Chaser, and still has 5 floating mana. He uses 4 of it to cast Forgotten Ancient, and then casts a Commander's Sphere. Moving to combat, he swings the Nova Chaser at Adam, the Green Warden and the Fusion Elemental at me, and the Horde at Cedric. Adam brings in Derevi to do her best impression of a stop sign for the Nova, and blocks some of the damage. I put my Sakur Tribe Elder in front of the Fusion Elemental, and I sacrifice it to find a Plains. I grab that Plains, and bring back Ulvenwald Hydra, finding a second Plains. I get the second Shepherd trigger to bring back Godpharaoh's Gift, before finally taking 6 from the Green Warden. In his second main phase, Fred casts Fist of the Suns, and passes turn. On Evil Adam's upkeep, I exile Wood Elves with Seance to find Temple Garden. This lets me bring back V2 Ghazi Guildmage, and in his main phase, Adam casts the Bane of My Existence, Rhystic Study, before passing turn. Cedric plays a Mountain for his turn and casts Krenko. Adam draws from the Rhystic Study as Cedric doesn't pay the extra 1, but reveals a Wooded Foothills and dies to the Impact Tremor trigger. Cedric then passes turn. I play a Forest for my turn, and I move to combat. I use the Godpharaoh's Gift trigger to bring back my Wall of Blossoms as a 4/4 black zombie defender wall, drawing as it enters both from its own ability and the Elemental Bond. I then give the Ulvenwald Hydra unblockable with the Rogue's Passage, and I swing my Hydra at Fred for lethal. Fred sacrifices his sphere to draw, but finds no answers. In my second main phase, I cast Nature's Lore to find a forest and pass. At the end of my turn, Cedric taps Krenko, and with the ability on the stack, I cast Sundering Growth to destroy the Impact Tremors. I also get to populate, and I make a second copy of Wall of Blossoms, drawing 2 as it enters. Cedric casts an Obelisk of Ur in his main phase and names goblins. He then activates Krenko's ability to make another 4 goblins, and moves to combat. He swings all of his tokens at me, and before blockers, I activate Vitu-Ghazi Guildmage to make another Wall of Blossoms token. I get to draw 2 as it enters, and I block 3 of the goblins and then take 12 from the 3 remaining hitting me. Cedric then sacrifices 2 goblins to kill the Guildmage, but knows he's going to die to the Hydra, so he moves to the next game. Game review time. So I think barring that Return to Dust play, I played this game pretty well with my Trostani deck. It was great to be able to get Seance going and God Pharaoh's Gift, so you guys were able to see how I'm able to cheat things out of my graveyard and make them into tokens and then populate the tokens. The deck is starting to really shape up, and I still have a lot of additions to make, like Helm of the Hosts and Enlightened Tutor, before I'm really happy with it. Evil Adam started with a really strong early game, but unfortunately suffered for some pretty bad draws later on in the game. It seemed like by the second half of the game, Derevi was purely defensive, tapping down creatures and being used as a blocker. This has worked for Adam in the past, but unfortunately his deck did not provide and he was forced to die. Cedric played my Krenko deck very well, being aggressive but never fully overextending to be completely wiped out by a board wipe. I do think I took a lot of the wind out of his sails by exiling that Skull Clamp, because he probably would have drawn a bunch more cards had I not. Fred No. 2's Horde of Notions deck really surprised me, and considering a lot of the creatures that he played outside of Mulldrifter were vanilla creatures with either trample or just huge power, he was able to do a lot of damage to a lot of people. He had so much mana and was able to pretty much cast anything from his hand or his graveyard as long as it was an elemental, so he was really in a good position, which is why he had to die before Cedric. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/mtgmudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/mtgmudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.